Hello and welcome to episode 27 of the Regista Football Podcast. My name is Jack. I'm once again joined by my good friend Ben. How you doing, man?
I'm doing pretty good, Jack. It's always good to have a football conversation with you.
It is, and hopefully in the next few weeks we're going to be having quite a few of those, right?
Yeah. Very much looking forward to getting back into the swing of things
For sure.
and talking about it.
I mean, it's kind of funny because the amount of shit we talk generally when we're together, we may as well have some sort of forum to discuss that further, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's how this started, and I'm glad that it's continuing in the same way. Like we just talk football constantly, and we just
Yeah.
want everyone else to listen to us talk football because we know you want to listen to football constantly.
The thing about this forum is it's people have to choose to listen to us to talk about football. In
It's
real life,
true.
people have to talk. Let's like deal with us talking about football. You know what I mean?
This is
It's
so
quite
true.
different.
Yeah, well, I'll Miranda will come home and I'll just start talking about football. And she's like, "What? Do you want to know how my day is?" I'm like, no. Like Bruno may be confirmed, but we don't know yet. So yeah,
Exactly.
a lot of things are happening in my life right now.
And Bruno Guimaraes definitely is one of them.
Yeah.
Tell the listeners what we're going to be going over today, Ben.
Yeah. Today, our order of operations, we're going to talk about some of the format changes. We kind of talked through what we did last season and what we really liked about it, and how we could improve upon that. I'm very excited to talk about those and really excited for how it's going to change the season. We're also going to talk about Andoni Iraola to Liverpool, kind of a
Yeah.
big move there. I'm excited to see what that looks like, and then finally we're going to talk about transfer updates because we are in silly season.
It is silly season, man, and there's lots of silly that's going on at the moment. I'll tell you
It's
that.
I want to say there's one super silly thing that happened today, right? So Arsenal is trying to go for Vinny Jr. Everyone kind of knows that at this point.
Yeah.
And like, so I have an Arsenal group chat, and like we're just like chatting about something else, and all of a sudden somebody in the group chat's like, Vinny just deleted everything on his Instagram, and I
He
immediately
did.
just went to my phone, and I was like, what are we doing? Like, this is what are we doing here? Like this season is just a lot of fun things happen, a lot of stupid things happen, especially like in the modern age too. So
Oh, for sure. Like, and that wouldn't be the last crazy thing to happen. I assure
oh
you.
no, not at all, not at all. But let's get into it. I'm really excited to talk through about our format changes and what's to come. So the way that we do episodes are going to be a little different coming up this year. I think last year we really had a lot of fun diving deep into teams and like specific like giving match previews. I liked learning more about new teams that I hadn't really dove into as much as I
Yeah.
did Arsenal. I think really like looking at that frame of view, it was a lot of fun. It was good conversation. It was really technical, but there was something that I felt like was missing, and I think we both kind of felt the same. Was like, how do we talk about actual tactics in football instead of kind of giving an overarching idea of this is what's happening in the game? We thought maybe what if we just focus on one tactical idea and we really dove deep into that tactical idea to really understand what that impact is across different teams.
Yeah, and ultimately, I think it comes down to we. I'm not going to say. In fact, I can categorically say we're not experts. So it's a good
Yeah.
opportunity for us to kind of dig into things and learn a bit more about them. Talk to you about what we found. We have decent foundational knowledge, but everything can always be improved upon, and that gives us a
Mhm.
forum to be able to do that. But that won't be the only thing we're going to be doing in the coming season. Tell them what
Yeah.
else we're doing, Ben.
Yeah. Tactics are always fun. We want to go through like overall like what that looks like, but also we're going to be doing a couple of changes. We're going to be doing some match previews of the Big Six of the derbies and things like that. Really table dependent games. So that's gonna be fun. But also moving forward, we're gonna have our main show. This is going to be one of our main shows. We're also going to have occasional live streams, which means that's like European games, Classico, some of the really big games that but we want to watch together. We don't really have a stake in, so emotions won't be as high in those games. And then and also we're going to be doing some weekend pub diaries. Whenever there is a match going on, we want to meet up at one of our favorite boozers, as people like
Drinking
to call
holes.
them, drinking holes. I don't know, breweries, whatever. and have chats, inebriated chats. That's always going to be a fun thing too.
Lots of inebriated chats. There were quite
Yeah,
a few of those last season as well, man.
they were. It's a lot of fun. I think one thing that I'm really excited for is also just kind of introducing some other visual dimensions to the podcast. If I can tease that out a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. We're working on some stuff at the moment to kind of improve the whole visual aspect of the podcast. When it kind of comes closer and we're a bit happier with how it is being produced, we'll definitely talk more about it. But aside from that, there is something to come. That's
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Jack, what do you think? What's your favorite part about this kind of format change and what's to come? Like, what are you excited for it?
It's a good question. I think for me, it just gives us an opportunity to really dive into a single subject. I love talking about games that have happened. I love previewing games. I love looking at it from like a tactical aspect and a aspect. It's not the only thing, but I think this more intentional format gives us the forum to really dig into specific subjects. I'll give an example of something. So, like, let's say if we
Yeah,
do an entire episode of build up from the box or build up from the back, first phase build up, it gives us an opportunity to really explore that, see how different teams are doing it, explain the concepts that are involved, and really just not only allows us to dig and learn more, but hopefully the listeners of the podcast will be allowed to learn more as a direct result of that as well.
yeah. I'm really excited for it. I think like gives us an opportunity to kind of, as you mentioned, learn, but also for people who are
Yeah,
interested in like we want to make this like really accessible to people too. You know, like when someone has a question, we want to be able to be like, oh yeah, I have that same question, and this is how I discovered it. So
exactly. Yeah, and that's not the only thing too. I mean, we a lot of what we do on a day to day basis. I mean, at the very least, when we're discussing football, like you and I, we do have some of those tactical conversations, but we are also chatting about games, so that isn't going to go
mhm.
away either.
Yeah, yeah,
We are going to be doing match previews. We're not. We're going to try and stay away from Liverpool and Arsenal as much as we can. If they have big games, then we will preview them.
yeah,
But the actual intention is to learn more about the teams that we're not watching every week, and
yep,
teams win the big six, big derbies, important table dependent games. That could be with anyone. But I'm really looking forward to being able to kind of dig deeper in the Premier League and see what everyone else is doing. But yeah,
yeah,
those are the main structure of the shows. But I'm really looking forward to it. I think the biggest thing for me is just being able to kind of be more intentional with what we're doing and kind of all learning together for the most part.
yep, yeah. Very excited for it. Yeah, looking forward to it, and really looking forward to bringing everyone else, our listeners, along. So yeah. I mean, I'd love to kind of jump into the next part of our discussion today.
And Donny,
Adoni Iraola to Liverpool. So I
yeah,
mean, I think we got to start with the big question: Arne Slot's gone. How are you feeling about it?
it's obviously we're kind of late to the party here, so like the emotions aren't quite what they were before. I would say though, like when it happened, ultimately I was sad. Kind of never want to see a manager of the football club be relieved of their duties, let alone a Premier League winning manager. And I can't say that about a lot of managers we've had, quite frankly. So he is in a unique class of his own. Unfortunately, he was let go. On the flip side, I would say I'm pretty excited,
Hmm.
mainly because, I mean, you guys, if you've been listening to this podcast and since its inception, you would know that I was relatively unhappy with how Liverpool were playing, and ultimately a change was needed, kind of based on that. And that makes me feel pretty reinvigorated for this season. I think if Arne Slot was the manager, I know there are a lot of people within Liverpool's fan base that would have been slightly concerned if that were to remain the case, and I could
Hmm.
definitely see why that would have been the case. But overall, I'm reinvigorated and looking forward to the season because of the managerial change.
Yeah, I'd have to probably, I mean, except for the last part about the reinvigorated for the season for Iraola, I was sad to see Arne Slot go for my
Yeah,
own personal reasons. I will say, like, the football was, it was different from what I'd seen Liverpool play before. So I'm interested.
definitely.
I'm not excited. Maybe I mean, I'll say I'm interested to see how Donny is gonna change that and what he's gonna bring from his style as well. Um,
Yeah, I mean that is the he has that archetypal type of Liverpool football. Like if you think about how Liverpool have played in the past, don't get me wrong, we've had
yeah,
some Haramish managers as well, like Rafa and Gerard Houllier. But overall, like Jurgen's style of football was aggressive. That's what
Yeah.
we've been watching for the last 10 years, and hopefully that is what gets brought back to Anfield.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, before we get into that, I'd really want to like maybe we should kind of take a little time to think back because
Yeah,
like let's get some context, right? Like when you sack a manager who just won you the Premier League, it's just insane. Like what went wrong with Arne?
it's a I think it's a really good question, and it's not one single thing. I think there were several aspects to Arne Slot being let go. I mean, the first one, and quite frankly, quite a lot of these are completely out of his control. Poor squad planning from the summer before. I remember everyone
Hmm.
talking about the amount of money that Liverpool spent, and where that is true, they also let a bunch of players go. And what that did as a direct result of that is put Liverpool in a situation where they don't have a bunch of squad depth. We were relying on Joe Gomez at times last season, which if you're down to Joe Gomez, you've probably got a senior centre back injured. Frimpong having to play in forward positions when he shouldn't have had to for a lot of the season as well.
Hmm.
Forward line issues where we didn't quite have the forward depth we needed, so on and so forth. That was definitely one of the problems. And really, injuries to key players was an issue as well, like Connor Bradley's injury, Ekatike's injury later in the year. Florian Wirtz got injured just as he was just as he was discovering form. Alexander Isak obviously broke his leg after he scored his first Premier League goal. Like, it's just what's the term? Like a consistent string of injuries that actively damage the product that you see on the pitch. And
Yeah.
then we've spoken about it on the podcast before, but the passing of Diogo Jota couldn't have been easy for the players. I know Andy
Hmm.
Robertson has come out more recently and kind of explained that it kind of really did affect them emotionally at the start of the season. I remember him talking about the fact that as soon as they turned up for preseason, no one really wanted to be there because of how sad they were feeling. And I would say they weren't really portraying that like outwardly, but it's not something that celebrities are really encouraged to do out in the open. You kind of just need to get on with it.
Hmm.
They did, but that must have been weighing on them too.
Yeah, I felt like there was a lot of things that kind of stacked up against the team. Like obviously, like the actual rebuilding that required
Yeah,
with all the people who left, and then on top of that, like the tragic incident with Diogo and his brother. I
for
think like
sure.
because of those things happening at the same time, that might have even like given everyone kind of a pause of like, what are we doing here? Like, what actually is like the goal now? The planned departures versus the unplanned departures versus like not being able to bring people in. Like, yeah, you did some great
Yeah,
business with Isak, but like injury, like immediately is not a great way for him to start the season, and then when he comes back, continue the season. So I felt like that definitely like just the overall planning, as you said,
yeah,
absolutely. And I think the other thing is also like it just felt like the team was gonna eventually go into transition, but it didn't seem like anyone was planning for that transitionary period.
yeah,
Mo had a fantastic season, but he was getting older, his contract was coming up.
for
No one
sure.
really had a plan on what to do, and I'm sure that also impacted some of the things as well.
The difficulty is though, is like when it comes to Mo Salah, you don't expect him to take that much of a fall off a cliff, do you? Like
No, no.
if he's gonna reduce in form, you'd expect him to get like half the GA he did drastically, and it was even worse than
Yeah,
that, man. So like
yeah.
it, lots of things accumulated, really damaged the way the season went. But I think it kind of makes sense that I give you guys a bit of a timeline, and we'll talk about kind of where it started to go wrong.
Hmm.
Liverpool, if you remember this, Ben, started the season really quite well. I think they were 6 out of 6.
Hmm.
First 6 games they win.
Oh
I'll
yeah.
tell you that though, that's only in terms of results. Like the actual football itself at times looked scary to say the least. Those set piece issues really started to become glaring. We were getting away with it in those first 6 games, but we were winning. It was looking. It was this type of thing where, do you know, when you're as fans, you say, we're winning and it hasn't clicked yet. It can only get better from here. Man, that was not the case whatsoever. Liverpool lose back to back to PSV and Nottingham Forest, and that is the inception of the podcast. That's the first episode we made of the podcast, if you remember.
That is, yep.
I was absolutely furious the fact that we lost 3-1 to PSV, man.
Yeah.
I was not happy, and ultimately at that point, I think his head was well and truly on the chopping block. I think it's difficult to say the club hierarchy backed him at that point, which they did.
Hmm.
But when you start losing games in that fashion as a Liverpool manager, people are going to start looking at you slightly differently. But ultimately, the club were outwardly coming out in public saying how much they back him and how much they acknowledge those mitigating circumstances. So it kind of put all of the fans in a position where we were like, you just kind of have to deal with it until it gets better. Maybe some players come back from injury. Maybe we can make some signings in January to help plug those squad gaps. But yeah, it was looking shaky at that period. Do you remember that, Ben?
Yeah, yeah. I think like it was a complete opposite of like the first 6 weeks
Yeah,
for like the person who wasn't watching every single game. Like if you're watching Liverpool play in the first 6 weeks and they were getting those wins, you're just like, wait, they're getting a lot of wins like last
yeah,
minute. And that's what you get from good footballers. Like we're not saying these people aren't good footballers. It's just like the system that they were playing and just
yeah,
wasn't what they were used to. And that
definitely.
system like started catching up with them and you could see the fall off at that point of the season.
For sure, yeah, and I think it all actually started with a loss to Crystal Palace. It was quite a narrow loss, but
Hmm.
it was a type of loss where you got to see all of the team's weaknesses in one game. Like they were playing direct, long ball, set pieces. Liverpool were really struggling with that.
Hmm.
And kind of after that period, the club released this roundtable. You probably wouldn't know about this because you're not in the Liverpool sphere,
Hmm.
but the club released this roundtable. Arna, the sporting director Richard Hughes, and Liverpool CEO Billy Hogan were kind of all sat around this roundtable. They've released them before. Almost the way I kind of look at it in my head is they were doing it almost as like a sign of solidarity with the
Yeah.
manager. In
Hmm.
that roundtable, they talk about kind of winning the league, trying to bring up good things about winning the league, and discuss the kind of weight of the Diogo Jota death. So I
Hmm.
think like the way I look at that roundtable was almost as maybe it's cynical of me to say, but I think it was somewhat PR for them to basically say to the fans, like it's not all bad.
Yeah.
There are these situations too. Liverpool ultimately kind of going on from that, and you remember me complaining about this as well. They were playing in a style where was just not befitting of a Liverpool team for me. It was very slow, risk averse. I call it non-event football, kind of where you're just passing the ball around a lot. You're not
Hmm.
really trying to hurt the opponent, but as long as you have the ball, they can't hurt you.
Yeah.
And that's how Liverpool are playing at that part of the season, man. And it's not really what you want to watch, but
Yeah.
that an unbeaten run follows where Liverpool don't lose. I think it's for 16 to 18 games or something like that, which is kind of nuts. But
Hmm.
in that, there are some shocking results, Ben. Like Burnley, a draw at Leeds, a
Hmm.
draw at Sunderland, and by the way, like at the time, I remember Liverpool fans just basically saying like this is the least satisfying unbeaten run of all time. Do you
Yeah.
remember like that period of the season?
Yeah, it was like this mitigation that they're able to like get these games and like I guess the
Yeah,
word to say is control these games.
yeah,
But yeah, like non-event stale football, like kind of it wasn't even opportunistic football because like opportunities would arise, but they weren't taking them as
yeah,
well. If I remember that.
for sure. Yeah, we were pretty wasteful in that period for a lot of
Hmm.
it, and really the style kind of like stayed the same. Results didn't though. Like we did eventually get beat, and we were beat quite a lot. I'd say we were pretty inconsistent for the rest of the season for the most part, but doing enough to secure Champions League football, which was the lowest points total since 03-04, Ben, with 60 points.
That's insane.
Yeah, kind of nuts, man. It's kind of looking back at the season, it was a very inconsistent season from Liverpool, a season filled with so much promise. But
Hmm.
ultimately, some of the decisions the manager made in that period, like the whole Mohamed Salah drama, dropping
Hmm.
Salah and making that about him, that's ultimately why I think he's left, quite
Yeah.
frankly.
Yeah.
Weird tactical decisions like playing Dominic Szoboszlai out of position when he was obviously our best presser of the football and
Hmm.
our best player during the season. There are things that I think he would have struggled to come back from.
Yeah, and so like I felt like because of those times when he just couldn't win like on the pitch or win
Yeah,
with the players, I felt like that's kind of one of the things that probably led to led to the beginning of the downfall. I know that they had a roundtable before, but something's got to change at some point. So, what do you think really forced SFG's hand then for it?
I would say there was quite a lot of fan disgruntlement at that time, like booing at Anfield on several occasions after relatively poor results. But like where performances would just be so dire, like nothing would happen in games. He would take off Rio Ngamoa at times, who was our one of the most exciting players we had last year, like in terms of like direct, aggressive football that the fans like were so in desiring of,
Mm-hmm.
and really a lack of clear playing approach. Huge change of style from the year before. I think the Premier League changed, and we definitely have to acknowledge that. But on the flip side, Arna was unable to get to grips with the modern Premier League approach. Like, we
Mm-hmm.
were struggling from set pieces, we were struggling to deal with long balls. And if you struggle to do with set pieces and long balls in 25, 26 Premier League, you're going to get cooked, man. A
Yeah,
lot.
yeah. Yeah. I mean, at the same time, I think like there was a period when they were doing pretty good on delivering set pieces and getting
Yeah.
goals from them, but you also have to defend them. Like you can't just focus on one part of that game.
No, that was actually the period where we were doing okay in some games, but
Hmm.
it's not enough ultimately. And
Yeah.
I'm incredibly thankful for what he managed to deliver at Liverpool. Frankly, he gave me one of the best days in my life. Winning that league title, I hadn't been much happier after a season of football than that for the rest of my life, and I'm eternally thankful for what he did. But ultimately, I think it was a good decision and something that needed to be done at the end of the season, man.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, I feel that. Like, I think you have to be able to thank a manager for all the work that they've done,
Yeah,
and then also know when it's the right time to actually let them go.
yeah,
So,
definitely.
yeah, yeah. So that kind of means, I mean, I don't want to read too much into it, but like overall personal opinion, like, yeah, you're very grateful for it. Anything else? Anything else you want to add to that?
Not really, man. Like I'm grateful for what he did for Liverpool. Change was needed, and I'm happy that they came to the conclusion that they did. And ultimately, the actions that they made there have made me way more excited for the season is to come, dude.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think like it can be exciting when you have a new manager coming up. And I mean, when we were doing our end of season, superlatives at the end of last season, we both talked about the best manager, and you had someone who you said was
I
the best
did.
manager. I know. Initially, you wanted Xavi Alonso
I did.
at Liverpool, but you did go with the other Basque manager. So let's talk about it. Who is this Basque manager, and why did Liverpool decide to go with him?
It's a good question. I'd say Liverpool were in a situation where they were looking for a different identity on the pitch, something that would kind of bring them back to more of that Jurgen style, heavy metal, aggressive pressing style of football. I'd say
Mhm.
they have two scenarios really. I think they could choose to do more of the same, which Xabi Alonso's football man is pretty slow, kind of controlled, but a different voice. You know, like does the
Yeah.
different voice make the difference, or do they want to go back to that style that I just referenced? And ultimately, they chose the latter. Ex Bournemouth manager will be the new head coach for Liverpool, and he is the new head coach. Actually, by the time we're recording this, he's managed a few games for Liverpool in preseason, and ultimately that is a signal for me, really, that the LFC hierarchy understood the type of football that Liverpool fans want them to play.
Hmm.
And Iraola is kind of like the ideal candidate to do that, especially if you consider the fact that he has Premier League experience.
Yeah, like having a manager with Premier League experience is always really good. They actually know the league, they know the other teams in
Yeah,
the league, they know play styles already. Like it's very, I think
exactly.
it's a good way to go about it. But I'd love to kind of get to know more about who he is and what brought him to the Premier League. Before Bournemouth, I'll be honest with you, I didn't really know him at all.
Yeah. I mean, we can go right back from the beginning.
Yeah.
Iraola, previously a right back for Bilbao, from San Sebastian, actually played with a few of the famous Basque players that are currently managing the Premier League. I think he's good friends with Mikel Arteta and Xabi Alonso, so they played together as they were kids. They
Hmm.
all went their different directions. Iraola played for Athletic Bilbao as a right back. He also played for Spain.
Hmm.
Later in his career, kind of went to kind of New York City, kind of under the City project, under Patrick Vieira. So he was learning a lot from Patrick Vieira in his early, kind of like the first time he had the idea that he wanted to be a coach.
Hmm.
And ultimately, once he decided to pursue that, he joined a club called AEK Larnaca, kind of a stint in Cyprus, basically a club that most people would never have heard of. Although he did manage to get the Cypriot club in the Europa League for the second time since the competition began. So that is a decent moniker to say he did pretty well over there. He had a short stint over there, and after that, he went to Mirandes. From there, he kind of moved. I can't remember the. I don't actually have the dates he moved there, but I know this wasn't a particularly long stint either. But this was in the second division of Spain. He managed to get them into the semi-finals of the Spanish Cup for the second time in 92 years,
Oh my. Okay.
beating Celta Vigo, Sevilla, Villarreal on the way. So you can see like that's a massive overperformance for a club like Miranda's.
Hmm.
Then he moves on to Rayo Vallecano, who eventually that's where Bournemouth kind of get him from. That is also in the second division, which is quite an interesting move. He was there for a couple of years. He achieved promotion via the playoffs and then extended his contract. The following season, he managed to get Rayo into the final four of the Copa del Rey, a place where they hadn't been in 40 years. So again, consistently overachieving. And during this time, he kind of established Rayo as this prominent La Liga team, like no threats of relegation. And
Hmm.
again, this is going to be a blueprint of his, and it has a clear offensive approach that kind of went a little bit against the mold in Spain. You know, like it's very, very Basque the way they play,
Yeah.
and ultimately to a degree the way Bournemouth play as well. And Bournemouth recognise that. From there, I believe he replaces Gary O'Neill. He actually, you know what's funny because when they went for Iraola, they were actually looking at Jesse March, and I'm sure that they don't regret that decision that they made. Didn't start particularly well at Bournemouth, if you remember. He only picked up 3 points in his first 10 games, which
Yeah.
isn't great. Some clubs, some bigger clubs, would probably have considered letting him go at that stage.
Hmm.
But the club wanted to stick with him as internally they felt as if he was kind of doing the right thing and kind of they could see what the players were trying to do on the pitch and he needed some patience. And frankly, that paid off for them. Iraola kind of married with their progressive recruitment approach. I'd say it's managed to provide Bournemouth fans with results that they haven't seen and really could have only ever dreamed of 15 years ago.
Yeah.
15 years ago, there were 90th of 92 English teams in the English football pyramid,
That's
and he
crazy.
gets them up to fifth. You know,
Yeah.
obviously, Eddie Howe did amazing work with that and the slow build that Bournemouth have had as a football club. But I think this is the furthest they've gone, and to me, there's no coincidence that it was with Variola, man.
Yeah, I mean, like, just even before he got to Bournemouth, you could just see his desire to progress football, and like challenge teams to be better than
Yeah,
what they are right now. I think, like, yes, Bournemouth has a very great kind of overall structure, and
absolutely.
like I think they were very lucky to bring him on at the time because it felt like a really good like melding of the individual and also of the club and what the club had been known for as well.
Yeah, I actually agree, and I think Iraola kind of found the type of club that would let him utilize some of that skill set he has. But what I would say, and a really big part of why I think Iraola is a great manager, is the fact that I think he has this ability to kind of make players more than some of their parts. In the
Mm,
sense that if you think about some of the players that he managed at Bournemouth that he made look really good, he made Tavernier basically a multi-purpose forward, could play both sides. Played in his attacking midfield at times. James Cook, Ryan Christie,
hmm.
James Hill, like all of these players that we weren't talking about before, are now
Yeah,
being looked at as some of the better players in the Premier League because
yeah,
of the system Iraola had and ultimately his training methods. And I think that is really what sets him apart as a manager.
yeah. I feel like he has, like he is in this team, and every single season, a couple of their players are
Yeah,
recruited to go to,
I mean, mate,
European. Yeah,
the season before last, like when he finishes fifth, his whole
yep,
defense gets bought in that summer. You know,
yeah,
like
yeah,
Kirkis goes, Dean Housen goes, their goalkeeper goes. Like they have to sell consistently most of their players, and he has to find a way to utilize the squad to be able to kind of fill those gaps and change. And he did that too, you know, like
Hmm.
if you think about when Bournemouth sell Kirkes, they sell Kirkes and bring in Truffert, but he understands Truffert as a different type of football player, and he
Hmm.
makes that work really well with how Senesi wants to build up. We'll talk
Hmm.
about his style in a minute, but he's so good at identifying the strengths of players and making them perform their strengths as many times as possible
Yeah, yeah. I think every single time you think that Bournemouth is like, they're selling all their players, like there's
to
something
get better.
magical that happens. Yeah, it's frustrating, and it's yeah, but at the same time, it's a cool thing to see in football,
Yeah,
and
definitely.
how style and adaptability are so essential versus like the strict structure of this is how you play football. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you don't need to be the same, but you can still be better. You know,
yeah,
like
exactly.
you can innovate on top of what you've done before and find the next evolution for the team. And ultimately, I think he's done that consistently. I'd say that coupled with a kind of more fortunate injury situation at some phases of last year helped
Hmm.
him. But you can't take anything away of kind of what Bournemouth have managed to do. And as a direct result of that, hiring Iraola definitely paid off for them. And
Yeah.
here we are. He's manager of Liverpool.
Yeah, I mean, like he's had a pretty significant history, like going through. And I know we talked briefly about the style, but like, I want to like kind of know a little bit more about his play style. Like, what are you seeing in his play style?
I would say Iraola is kind of known for the main things. I would say high tempo and intense.
Hmm.
Looks for me a lot like Liverpool's early football under Jurgen Klopp.
Okay.
Not a lot of like immediate controlled structure, but a lot of aggression, intensity, use counter pressing as a way to create chances. At times, I'd say it could look quite vertical, almost like a kick and rush style,
Okay.
but really they play long to enforce counter press situations, just as I alluded to. Basically, how Jurgen's Liverpool used to. I'd say his training methods are relatively unique.
Hmm.
Players don't get days off. It's really important that players are very fit. A
Hmm.
big emphasis on the ability to kind of go again, and how he changes his teams in games as well kind of heavily caters to that. He basically has a rule that give 100%, at 60, if you're done, just say I
Hmm.
need subs, and he
Yeah.
brings on changes. He does that with his wingers a lot as well.
Hmm.
Kind of with the involvement of Alex Scott, his ability kind of on the ball has made Bournemouth this year kind of show a more sustained possessional approach, which they didn't
Okay.
show that before. So it shows, at least for me, the advancement of what Iraola has managed to teach in just in terms of overall principles and the way they
Hmm.
play. And kind of as I alluded to as well, like that same thing happened with Truffert as well, like the ability to control the ball, but still have the mindset of we're trying to hurt them with direct football. He's definitely done that and found a decent, better mix this year. So that kind of overlies that it is high tempo football, but he has shown situations where he can adapt.
Yeah. Yeah, I felt like, I mean, if we kind of compare that to what Liverpool tried to do last season with the
Yeah,
possessional football, like it was stale, but like increasing that tempo and making it intentional possession, like that's kind of what's going to win you the game.
yeah, and ultimately, I think like the intent has to be to hurt the opponent. You know,
Yeah.
I really don't want to watch football that's very pass side to side and very safe. It's not
Yeah.
particularly great to watch, and
Hmm.
Iraola has a really nice balance of keep control at times, but ultimately do that with the idea of that we want to be aggressive.
Yeah. Yeah, I felt like if like that continues to happen like with the aggression, and this also if he's going to be able to like kind of utilize players in different ways, I
Yeah,
think what that really does is it doesn't let other teams set up or know how to set up for the teams that
it's
they're
true.
facing. And so like you create a game plan. And so if you do that, and I don't want to disparage, the Bournemouth players, but it's just a different level of
Yeah, it
player and
is.
caliber as you have at Liverpool. It just that kind of overall style is going to be kind of interesting.
Yeah, definitely. And
Yeah.
it's going to be a nice change, I think, for Liverpool fans that had to deal with what they had to deal with last year.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, like kind of going back to, sorry, Ben, but kind of going back to his training methods, and kind of
Mhm.
as I alluded to just now, he's kind of had some bad luck with injuries.
Mhm.
He's had bad luck with injuries most of his Bournemouth seasons. It's kind of why their squads have always been so big. last year they kind of invested in like this new sports science facility,
Hmm.
much more development of infrastructure, and actually hired a kind of like new head of medical there, and it greatly reduced like the injury issues that Bournemouth were facing, and that's kind of why they had such a good finish to the end of the season. They finished 18 unbeaten in the end. There are quite a lot of
Hmm.
draws in there, but the investment in sports science and the the change of approach slightly from Iraola going to that more like possession heavy style definitely helped when it came to the kind of run in of the season.
Yeah, yeah, I'm very grateful that they got that sports science person in there to help them get that 16th draw before the end of the season. It was really important to me.
It helps, man. It helps.
I mean, it's really interesting to kind of like see an overview of his overall play style. But like, let's dive a little deeper into it. Like, what does he look like out of possession?
Oh man, this is kind of where his football is. At least for me. I mean, don't get me wrong, the in possession stuff is great too. But I think if you watch a team, if you watch that Bournemouth team, they kind of scream they're coached by Iraola out of possession. And
Hmm.
really, the first word that comes to mind is intensity. The other one would just be pure relentlessness. And I think it comes from his understanding of how modern football embraces positional structures and ultimately like predetermined movements. He knows how typically how they work and how they needed to be disrupted. He doesn't mind the fact that when they are disrupted, chaos ensues because his teams are set up to be able to deal with that chaos. And ultimately, I would say his teams are very versatile in their approach. He knows when the team needs to kind of sit in a mid block, but he also knows when the team needs to attack and press aggressively high. And I'd say overall, the reason why it's been so effective, especially so quickly, quite frankly, and sustainably, is the pressing methods are actually pretty simple. I want you guys to think about a football pitch. You put two teams on a football pitch, right? Let's say if the opposition goalkeeper is in build up, they're building it with two centre backs, basically a 4-2. That's how everyone builds from the back nowadays, right?
Hmm.
All he asks to do is that striker cuts that pitch in half. So he marks one of the players, basically bending his run, and then the pressing structure begins. And essentially what happens then is every man on that side of the pitch goes man to man.
Hmm.
But they relentlessly chase the ball to try and get it back. So what
Yeah.
they're doing is they're following each of the men everywhere who aren't in possession, but every single movement of a player in possession is a pressing trigger. So you have to squeeze, trying to make the pitch as small as possible. So they kick it long, and your centre backs can sweep it up, or you get the high regain and you get it back. But
Yeah.
ultimately, what they're trying to do is they're trying to create little pockets of chaos that
Hmm.
his teams can benefit on because they're set up to deal with that chaos. It's a really physically demanding style of football. Ultimately, the players need to trust each other though, because it takes quite a lot of commitment to understand. This is the pressing trigger. We have to go, and we have to be willing to leave space in behind us sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah, that like that pressing style, like the team pressing together is what is so important, right? And we talked about
Hmm.
how Jurgen did that a lot, right? Like everyone would press together. So there's like similarities in that already. Get the high ball, like the high pitch regain, which means that you have less work to do, and now your defensive resources, midfield resources can kind of like jump up as well
Yeah,
and help out.
I call it
Yeah,
like choking the pitch.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
you're making the space for them to play in smaller
yeah,
with every pass they make. You're choking, you're choking, you're choking, and
yeah,
eventually you're playing in tight spaces. And if the team is intense, they can get the ball back. That's
yeah.
really what he does.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think like we can understand how he's choking the pitch and playing out of possession. Tell me a little bit more about how they're playing in possession.
Oh yeah. So this is kind of like it's kind of weird, isn't it? Because I'd say a manager with this style of in possession football doesn't typically end up getting jobs at big clubs, and I'll explain that. It's not
Hmm.
like this possession heavy controlling style of football. Like I said, man, it is the only way I could describe it is heavy metal football. Like it's direct, it's
Uh-huh.
quick, it's intense. The way it's been described in Spain is La Furia, which is similar to the style kind of employed in Bilbao.
Hmm.
He's been heavily influenced by Marcelo Bielsa in his career, so you
Hmm.
can see that that type of influence in his football. All of the movements the players in possession make is to create chances and hurt the goal.
Mm-hmm.
In a lot of kind of interviews, he consistently talks about players having the ability to understand when to attack and how to be intentional with it.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't specifically believe in coaching like these strict patterns of play within positional structures,
Mm-hmm.
because the way he looks at it is he thinks that if I teach these constant patterns of play, if the patterns of play don't work, you basically have to fall back to a fail safe.
Yeah.
If we can coach simple patterns of play with the idea of trying to hurt the goal as quickly as possible, we can thrive in chaos. And that's definitely how his teams play in possession.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say Bournemouth's football last year was definitely the best that they've played under his tenure. When teams kind of like employed again, I've said this word a few times, but I'm going to say it again, that kind of low event, kind of risk averse approach, Iraola wanted to be a disruptor and make teams uncomfortable. Like, in terms of his in possession style, what's the impression that you've always gotten from him?
Yeah, I mean, like, I do like how you said he isn't looking at structured football, but what he relies on, what I feel like he relies on is like football IQ. Like, he wants to
Yeah,
teach the players like how to make the runs that either put pressure or drag
yes,
defenders out of the way. And so that's more of what his style is. It's like it's play the ball, but also play the man.
yeah,
That doesn't mean you necessarily need to play a system. Like, yeah, there's shapes that you can create. There's ways to press and trigger, especially when there's triggers for it. But like, it seems a lot more focused on that kind of like creativity and intentionality of the ball, and both in
yeah.
and out of possession.
Yeah, and you're completely right. Like, I think you just nailed it on the head there. Like, a lot of it is we don't have to do it this way, like this
Hmm.
specific way. We want to find the least the path of least resistance to goal. If you
Hmm.
see 20 yards in front of you, don't go through this repetitive motion because you've been told to build up in this specific way. Attack the space.
Yeah.
Attack the space with the ball and the man. You kind of hit the nail on the head, kind of with that expression, to be honest.
Yeah, I feel like, I mean, the times when I watched Bournemouth the most, obviously, was when they were playing Arsenal last season, and it just was kind of like frustrating to think that, oh, you're a team that's chasing the league 4 years in a row now, and you can't get past this mid-table team. Like,
Yeah,
what are you doing? And a lot of it is because his players had that freedom of knowing what to
exactly.
do, rather than the structure of this is when you do X, this is when you do Y. Yeah.
Precisely. Yeah, I completely agree with that.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit about overall like his shape and how they play.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I could do that. So, his team's playing a 4-2-3-1. They build from the back in a 4-2. Typically, how you've seen the rest of the Premier League play.
Hmm.
Goalkeeper needs to be comfortable playing from the back, as do both centre backs. What typically the way Bournemouth worked is they had one ball dominant centre back and kind of one destroyer profile, but both
Hmm.
still need to be relatively comfortable just because of how modern pressing structures work. I'd say he's shown a lot of flexibility in what he asks different players to do, specifically in build up, and I have some examples of that. I gave you one earlier when it came to Kirkes and Truffert.
Hmm.
Kirkes was never really involved in build up. He would kind of bomb high and wait to receive because of how much of a expansive passer Dean Housen was.
Hmm.
But when Truffert came into the club and he realized how good Truffert is assisting and aiding in build up, he dropped Truffert deep and he'd almost be an outlet for Senesi. And I'd say the big thing is kind of like he shows ability consistently, as we've alluded to already, to kind of adapt to situations and get the most out of specific players' qualities. And I think that makes him really unique in the sense that he doesn't need to hire this profile for this position and this profile for this position. He's really good at adapting to what he has. And you've seen that with Bournemouth's consistent evolution in possession.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean that makes a lot of sense. Like when you are able to find people who do multiple things and
Yeah.
then and plug them in as needed, you can also adapt them to different situations and teach them how to adapt to the situations quickly.
Yeah, and I would say there's some good parallels too. Like if we're trying to think about how Evanilson and Krupi played last year. I don't
Hmm.
see why Isak and Ekatike couldn't do something like that effectively.
Yeah.
Florian Wirtz is such a gifted player when you have him kind of drop into those like zone 14 possessions like
Hmm.
Krupi was doing last year. So there are a lot of parallels in that kind of like overall front attacking style of football,
Hmm.
which is fun because really for me it's about, especially for him, like trying to figure out how to put those players in the best possible scenario for their skill sets. And that's why I'm almost sure like he'll be able to use a lot of the squad Liverpool have and make them more than some of their parts. I'm looking forward to seeing how he manages to adapt the kind of offensive style of football to how Liverpool need to play in 26, 27.
Yeah, I think, I mean, that's, that's kind of what you imagine like is going to be the hardest or biggest challenge for most managers who
Yeah,
come in and they're like, "Hey, here's a team that has been built with a different purpose. Now I have to take over and kind of make sure that I can adapt their purpose to my
yeah.
overarching plan." But yeah, yeah, good points. I think you do have like an attacking structure and attacking players who can adapt to that, and honestly have probably played in that kind of system anyways. Like Isak kind of was that player that Krupi has been in Newcastle, and like I think it's gonna be interesting to see what that looks like.
Yeah, and like a lot of the forward profiles that he likes to have, they're typically very well rounded profiles in the sense that they're all quite good at everything. Like they can drop and connect, they can hold the last line, they can use width. And Liverpool have a really well rounded kind of forward line in that regard. Like all of those players can do bits of everything. So I'm curious to see how he manages to utilize that and how Liverpool can strengthen potentially in this window to for that to go even further is exciting for me.
Yeah, yeah, I think like it's going to be an interesting season. It's going to be an interesting attacking team. It's going to be, I think it'll be fun overall for you.
Yeah, let's
But
hope.
I mean, yeah, you've been able to kind of digest his play style. You've seen a couple of his games already. How do you feel about him, and what are your kind of first impressions of him at Liverpool?
That's a good question. I'd say what I like about him is he's very naturally himself. He he doesn't give media trained answers. He's very considerate of the players and what he says about them, but he's also like super straightforward. Like when he was asked in one of the press conferences about transfers, he just outright said everything Liverpool need. It's like I know we
Hmm.
need a winger, we need a defender. Like talking through all of the transfer stuff. Arne
Hmm.
Slot would never say anything like that. Jurgen Klopp would never say anything like that. To me, it's just kind of refreshing. It's warm, not
Hmm.
sanitized, and he's very much kind of like himself. He said something very interesting kind of in his welcome interview, and it was like, I'm going to do this job as myself because I got here being myself. I'm not going
Hmm.
to let anything change me, but I kind of am who I am. And I'd say players that have kind of been interviewed during preseason and asked about him is they've all said how much more intense the training is, kind of as we'd expect based on his play style as well. But
Yeah.
you can see the players are being put through much more strenuous kind of drills to improve fitness for kind of longevity. So
Hmm.
I'm hoping Liverpool can end up peaking later in the season. You still get to see like a really fit team. There were times last year, man, where we looked just unfit, like unable to compete physically with a lot of teams, and I don't see
Hmm.
that happening with the Iraola side. But overall, man, like he said all the right things. He's spoken about connection and the emotion in football and how he wants to bring that to Anfield, harnessing
Hmm.
the power of Anfield. He says everything you want a Liverpool manager to say in a really warm, non-sanitized way. And
Hmm.
Liverpool played a preseason game against Leeds. The second half was an absolute calamity, so we won't talk about the game so much.
Yeah.
But the first half, where he had a lot of his starters play, you could start to see the early indications of Iraola football. Like Liverpool were pressing really well
Hmm.
from the front, exactly in the method I just showed. Isak was cutting off one of the centre backs, and then they would split the pitch in half. Everyone would go man to man and attack the ball really well, and you
Hmm.
got to see like how this could look. And given some time, I know it can look much better. So, dude, I'm really excited, man.
Yeah.
I like I said to you, really, at the end of last season, I just don't know how they can end up keeping him. They didn't. They got this guy, and I think this guy will show to be a really good manager in the Premier League. How long does it take him to do? I cannot answer you that. And one of the
Yeah.
things I also said was, I don't really want a manager that has to learn on the job. I think
Yeah.
there's going to be some learning here, dude. There's going to be some adjusting
Hmm.
here. So, as a Liverpool fan, I have to be patient with him as well. But really, for me, and what it comes down to, maybe this sounds silly, but as long as the football is good, man, I can be patient with results. If I can see there is something on the pitch consistently to get excited about, I know results can come with some refinement. So, dude, I'm all for it. Let's attack the season.
Yeah, yeah, man. Yeah, I'm just to see how he does, and I think I was gonna ask you like, do you see him winning, or when do you see him winning the league, and how many years do you think it's gonna take him?
Man, there's lots of variables, man.
Yeah, yeah.
Liverpool's, I'm going to go on a bit of a tangent here, so forgive me. Liverpool's hierarchy right now is an absolute dumpster fire. Richard Hughes looks like he's going off to Saudi, who's our director of football. Our CEO of football, or the big cheese, Michael Edwards, is unhappy with how FSG have managed the multi club ownership project. So it looks like he's going to leave too. So
Hmm.
they're probably going to have to hire two really big kind of like stakeholders of the club, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
That's going to come. So we don't know how that changes the recruitment strategy. I think what you'll end up seeing is, I think Liverpool will do quite well this year. We're not going to challenge for the league this year. I
Hmm.
think if they can get signings right, he can start challenging for the league again in 2 or 3 years.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I think I'd do the same. I'd give like the same kind of assumption. Like, I'd be very surprised if he challenged for the
Yeah,
league this year. I was very surprised that Arne Slot came in and did it, but also he had a fantastic team. But yeah, I think I would I'd kind of see him do really well with what he has, but also if he has the right transfers, I think he could do even
yeah,
better.
yeah, and that's what it is, isn't it? It's like, how much do Liverpool care about expediting this thing? Like, I think
Yeah.
if you buy players and let him find solutions with a good squad, it will take him less time. If you're not backing him in the transfer market, and we're going to get into that in a minute, if you're not backing him and you want him to kind of make do, then it's going to take longer. It just
Yeah.
depends on how the club want this to go. And I hope, dude, I fucking hope it's the former. I'm telling you,
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah. I
want to
think
wait that long.
yeah, you don't want to wait 6 years and just
Nah,
have three second places in a row before you win.
I
But
don't. But then the argument then is that's when the football has to be good. He ain't lasting 6 years at Liverpool if the football isn't good. There is
yeah,
no chance.
yeah,
You know.
yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, I really appreciate you walking us through Iraola and who he is and what you're seeing in his football and how that can impact
Yeah.
Liverpool.
I hope
I
you
mean,
guys are looking forward to it too.
yeah,
The Liverpool fans listening to this, yeah. But it's been brilliant, man.
yeah.
Kind of like fresh of breath of fresh air coming into the new season.
That's always a fun thing. Speaking of a fresh of breath air, a breath of fresh air,
Fresh of breath.
and the new season. Let's like cover some transfer updates real quick. If we want, I think let's start with Liverpool since we're on the subject of Liverpool, anyways. What's been going on with Liverpool?
Uh, Not much, man. This is going to be a really it's going to be a really short section. Liverpool obviously pre-agreed Jeremy Jacquet, so he's come in. Desperately needed after fucking the calamity that was dealing with Ibrahima Konate. So Jacquet's in, centre back, still very young, very raw, but extremely promising in his
Yeah,
profile.
wasn't that deal done in the
Jan,
winter window? Yeah, it was done in
yeah.
the winter window in the green ones. Yeah, okay.
And as soon as he was agreed, he dislocated his shoulder and put him out
Yeah,
for the rest of the season.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, that one.
yeah. That one.
And then Victor Munoz. This was a bit of a blindside one, to be honest. Like we
Yeah.
weren't linked to him. He was traveling with the Spain squad. He's very young. He's a Real Madrid youth product.
Hmm.
Went to Osasuna last season, and it looks like a very archetypal Premier League winger. He's very direct, very fast, very good off the ball, which is going to help Iraola start a football.
Hmm.
Lots of room for development and still quite raw, but I like those two signings.
Hmm.
We've been linked to a few players too. Bradley Barcola being the big one. Earlier in the window is Yandy Amande. All of the
Yeah.
nonsense that came from that.
Hmm.
Frankly, though, I'm kind of happy Liverpool decided to abandon that. As soon as he said he wanted to go to PSG, which hasn't happened, by the way, Liverpool moved on and decided to pursue Barcola. I'm pretty confident on Barcola happening. Liverpool need to make a signing of substantive quality, and I think Barcola will be that. Left winger, so we still don't really have an option, like a dedicated right wing option. But
Mm-hmm.
I think if they end up signing Barcola, they could get one more, and we get into who that one more could be in a minute. But if they do end up signing Barcola, they might use the rest of like the forward allotment on signing someone that could back up Ekatike for a few months
Yeah.
versus trying to sign a belter at right wing too. Munoz could play minutes over there. Rio can play minutes over there.
Yeah.
Gakpo's kind of out on his ass a little bit because of
Mm-hmm.
that, because all of these guys are actually left wingers. None of them are specialized right wingers, so
Yeah.
that is a bit of an issue. But right winger, we've been linked to another kid from PSG, Mbai. He was very young. He's French, but he plays for Senegal, so he obviously
Mm-hmm.
has Senegalese origins. Really looks really good. Very young, very raw, dynamic, really quick, really good at taking players on 1v1. Those are like two of his main abilities.
Mm-hmm.
They don't want a lot of money for him either, so I think it's a bit of a no-brainer, that one. I think they're asking for 40 million.
Okay.
And based on what he could be in a few years, that will look like a bit of a bargain if he manages to reach some of the potential that we've seen. So I think that would be a good option as well. But overall, Ben, it's been a bit of a lack of movement for me. Like if you'd have said to me Liverpool would have signed one player
Yeah.
in the summer transfer window and we'd have been in like the start of August, I'd have said you're taking the piss, mate. I'll be honest
Yeah.
with you.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
Iraola.
I feel that too. Like, I feel like there's been certain teams that have been moving, other teams that haven't been moving. I mean, we can talk about Arsenal. They haven't been moving as quickly in some areas as well. Like, I feel like there has been a lack of movement. Like, when I was looking at, okay, what are our actual incomings in Capier, who was on loan, but we finished that deal.
Yeah,
Meslier came in off of free. Solis is like the real actual
the
signing that we've
signing.
had so
Yeah,
far. And like I think like especially him coming in, I think that deal was absolutely part of making sure that we had a backup for Trossard who went down
yeah,
to Besiktas. Gonna miss him. Like obviously a great player. And I think, I think he just needed another part of his story and I'm happy that he's served us well and he's moving on. But
yeah.
yeah, apart from that, like I know if you're in the football world, all the stuff that's going on with Arsenal. I was hoping that by the time we'd record this, we had the actual like confirmation of Bruno on actual Arsenal outlets rather than the things that we have. I know Ornstein earlier today, what it's 12 hours, 13 hours ago today, kind of confirmed that all of the financials are pretty much agreed on. This you put pen to paper, or I guess finger to DocuSign. I don't know how things happen anymore. And then
Who
Bruno
knows?
Bruno will be finalized. What do you make of that Bruno Guimaraes move?
I think it's a really smart bit of business, mate.
Yeah.
When there are other players that we know probably aren't as good at Bruno going for a good amount of money more,
Yeah.
I think it's just a really good bit of business. I
Yeah.
think he comes in and displaces Zubamendi. I think
Mm-hmm.
he starts ahead of Zubamendi. And if
Yeah.
you can get a replacement for a guy as good as Zubamendi and essentially make Zubamendi like third choice there, I think that's just a cracking signing for under 100 million. And it's
Yeah.
important to remember with Arsenal too, man. Like, I don't expect you to do as much as Liverpool because you don't need to do as much as Liverpool. Like
Yeah.
Liverpool have to sign players.
Mm-hmm.
Arsenal could be a bit more choosy about what they decide to do. They're Premier League champions. They have less gaps to fill anyway, if any gaps. You might have
Mm-hmm.
gaps because of outgoings, and that might be the only reason you have gaps. But no, you're strengthening when you're at the top, and Bruno Guimaraes is definitely a statement of intent of that.
Yeah, yeah. I think like that's why I'm not as nervous about not making as many signings. I think there's some areas that I'm nervous about just based on fitness levels and how people have been doing, and also the level of footballers we have in that area. Like right back, if Timber doesn't come back strong this season, I'm a little nervous about that. I don't think
Yeah,
Ben White can do that by himself all
I
season.
agree.
I don't really want to see Mosquera playing back there. I definitely don't want to see Rice dropping back to the right back position ever again in my entire life for Arsenal. Saliba is, I guess he was carrying the entire French team on his back as we saw in the semifinals. So I think it's gonna take him some time. I agree. I know that I don't want to get too much into Vinny. I don't know. Like if it happens, that'd be a very interesting move. I think Arsenal would be very lucky to have someone who is as good as Vinny. But at the same time, I'm not 100% sure if I actually want Vinny on this team.
I do think it's bollocks. I think
Yeah.
it's him trying to show Real Madrid that he's willing to leave.
Hmm.
David Ornstein tweeted today that they've offered him better terms already.
Yeah.
So you'll see how he responds to that. But I don't see Vinny leaving Real Madrid in his career, man. It's
Yeah. I
the
don't.
kind of the pinnacle of football,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
I don't imagine that happening either. So you know, I think it's all just kind of him posturing and trying to get a better deal for himself, which do it.
But hey,
Get the
they're
bag,
gonna
man.
they're gonna say that until that happens, aren't they?
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
who
Yeah.
knows what can happen, man? But
Yeah.
doesn't look likely to me.
Speaking of really, really big spendings, we should start talking about Spurs.
Oh yeah, man. Spurs have been busy.
Busy.
They've had a great window, I think. Mateus Fernandez, that was one of the
Hmm.
ones that was a an award winner, like kind of
Yeah.
underrated player of the season of mine.
Yeah.
I think Mateus Fernandez, 85 mils a bit steep for me. He's more of like a 60, 50 mil player, in my
Yeah.
opinion, but the
Yep.
market's incredibly inflated. The only thing that bugs me about that transfer is you cannot set the precedent of buying players from relegated clubs for that much money, man. Like,
Yeah, it's
crazy money.
ridiculous. It's really funny. Like that deal happened so long ago that I actually forgot that he was going to Spurs until I started looking. I was like, like I remember like Tonali and Robertson Senese, and I was like, who else went there? And I was like, oh yeah,
Yeah,
Fernandez went there. The best
crazy.
Fernandez in the league went there. And then also like and then like Robertson went there, Van Hecke
Yeah,
went there. It really feels like they're building on like the defensive structure as they should be overall. But I know Romero is possibly going out
yeah.
already. But before we get into that, like, what did you think about the price for Tonali?
I think it's too much money, but I think
Yeah,
everything in this window is too much money. Tonali for 100 million is nuts for me. Like, it's Declan Rice money. They're
yeah,
different types of players.
yeah.
Tonali is like a little bit more well rounded than Declan Rice, but he's not as good at anything either. So it's kind
Hmm.
of like a bit more of a jack of all trades. Very good off the ball, very fit, very intense, quite physical. But 100 million, man, is crazy money for Tonali, at least for me.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think like that was. I mean, it's kind of where the market is right now, which just doesn't make sense. And maybe we'll adjust to it and get used to it. I'm sure that
Yeah,
there were people when player were just starting to go for above 50 million. They're like, "What is going on? How are you selling a contract for over
yeah.
50?" And now we're just in the other end of it. Yeah.
Yeah, I do like some of their defensive signings though. Van
Hmm.
Hecke, I think, is a decent signing. I don't rate him defensively that highly, but
No.
in terms of what De Zerbi wants to do and how his build-up structures work, I
Yeah.
think Van Hecke would be really good for that.
I mean, Van Hecke was one of his boys at Brighton
Yeah,
anyway, so it kind of made sense that he was going to bring some people that he's played with and people he can trust as
and
well.
then they've signed like the most progressive defensive player in the league last season
Yeah.
in Senesi.
Yeah.
So their players are going to be able to play from the back, something they really struggled with last year without Romero at times.
Hmm.
It looks completely different how their build up works now because of who
Yeah.
they've signed. Really, I'd say I'm excited to see it, but like not excited in the way like I really want them to do well, but excited to see how those players play together from like a footballing perspective.
Yeah, I mean, we did a deep dive into De Zerbi, and then before we could even like talk more about him, like he was already gone because we did that deep dive for Marseille, and then we kind of try to apply it to Spurs. But yeah, I'm just to see how he's going to bring that kind of like that transitional play in, and creating those false transitions and stuff like that at Spurs.
Let's move on to the other kind of bananas team, which is Chelsea. They've done a lot too, man.
Yeah.
Some good moves here. I know Giovanni Kenda arrived. There was a pre-agreement, but he's
Hmm.
super promising. He's a really promising kind of right left winger. Super high ceiling. They got him from Sporting like a year ago, I believe. It
Okay.
might have even been longer than that, but he was on loan for a while.
Okay.
That's a big signing. They've made some defensive signings too. Lacroix, Maxence Lacroix, which I think is a solid signing. We know what Lacroix is. He's been playing in a three, which makes me think that Alonso will be using a three back system. I've not seen much of them in preseason, so maybe we've seen some of that already. But I
Yeah.
think Lacroix is a good signing in that regard. And then Palestra as well, who they've signed at right back. I know Liverpool, at the very least in the Liverpool Twitter sphere, they were talking about Palestra as an option. Very
Hmm.
athletic, young, quite raw at right back, but can definitely play as an effective right wing back.
Yeah.
I'd kind of be concerned about his like take on ability on the outside, but he's
Hmm.
really quick and really athletic. What do you think about the defensive signings? I think Lacroix is a belter. Palestra, I'm not
Yeah.
sure about.
Yeah, I feel like Lacroix is like gonna be like really good for them.
Yeah,
I'm not really as familiar with Palestra, but just from what you described, I think that kind of is what they need in that position. I
yeah,
think when they try to put James into that center defensive mid role, which he does pretty well in, especially in like on the ball and like in
yeah,
distribution, you can't keep him on that right back role. He's just not utilized as well as he could be. But yeah, I'd be interested to see how that kind of changes their overall shape and what job he's going to be doing to them defensively.
yeah. And then
Um,
obviously the big one, which is Morgan Rogers.
yeah.
Obviously, Arsenal target.
Hmm.
Big Arsenal target. Were you surprised when you found out Chelsea agreed a deal for him?
I was very surprised. I kind of I thought that that one was definitely like done, and they're just waiting to kind of announce it. But it looks like Chelsea like swooped in last minute and gave both the man the deal that he wanted, and also the club the deal that they wanted. And so like I can't blame them for swooping in and paying that much money. I wouldn't have given a record fee for Morgan Rogers in the Premier League this season. As an Arsenal fan, if we had done that, I'd been like, what are we doing here? Like, yes, I really want this player, but this is a lot of money.
Yeah,
So yeah,
he's
uh,
to me that's an inflated price too, by
yeah,
quite a bit. So,
yeah,
and I agree with you. I think ultimately what was happening is Arsenal were like, no, we're not paying this amount of money. Chelsea come in and were willing to do it, gave the player kind of what he wanted, and the deal
yeah,
was sealed. But I think it's a big signing. I think he's going to do well at Chelsea. If I
yeah.
envisage the way Alonso plays, you're probably going to see him in like that left pocket, kind
Hmm.
of that Florian Wirtz position when he was at Bayer Leverkusen.
Yeah.
He's really dangerous from there. He
Hmm.
showed it several times last season for Villa, so I know he's probably going to be a success there. But they have some like interesting signings as well, some like very non-modern Chelsea signings. Jordan
Yeah.
Henderson and Danny Welbeck.
Yeah. Danny Welbeck going to Chelsea is like, man, that guy's career is so crazy,
Nuts.
like insane. When I first saw him going, I was like, "Welbs, what are you doing, dude? Like, what are you doing?" But Henderson and Welbeck going to Chelsea is going to be really interesting. Like, I wouldn't expect Chelsea to make those kinds of moves. I wonder if it's mainly like to play some of the cup games and get a bit more depth in those areas because they know that people can deliver, or maybe they're looking for people who kind of end out games and like maintain stability.
I
But yeah,
it's
see what that means.
Yeah, I think it's a good question. I think a lot of it though is also what they're doing not on the pitch. I think it's a kind of cultural types of signings too. I
Yeah,
remember Alonso basically saying that he wants his squad to be kind of varied in terms of age range. Younger players need older players, and older players need younger players, type of thing.
yeah,
And Henderson is like a leader. He just
yeah,
is a leader. Led one of the most successful modern Premier League sides
yeah,
for several years. Like it's a
yeah,
good cultural signing, but I don't
absolutely.
know how much I don't know how much he's going to be able to contribute from a footballing perspective at this point of his career. But
Hmm.
it's a good move for him. As a Liverpool fan, I'm a bit kind of annoyed by it, to tell you the truth.
Yeah.
So I hope he does terribly. Uh,
As an
and
Arsenal
then
fan, I am very used to people going to Chelsea and winning something there, and then that is what they're known for. So
it's true.
I'm okay with Welbeck going.
Yeah, but who cares about Welbeck? He's been everywhere, man.
Yeah,
Henderson like was the captain of Liverpool when we won a Premier League and Champions League. To see him
that's
play there
true.
kind of bugs me.
Yeah.
Mikhailo Mudrik as well as a fucking
Yeah, it was
curveball.
like 615 days since he stepped on a pitch
Yeah,
because of his doping allegations, and now
it's
he's back on the pitch.
it's weird. I wonder if they plan to use him. I'm sure they do. The things with Mudrik is you know what he's good at. He's like
Yeah,
he's good at taking people on, and he is so quick. Curious to see if they use him, but I think like their
Also,
window
Arsenal could do
shows,
the funniest thing ever and offer like 25 million for Modric.
and they would, dude, they would think about that.
They would think about that.
They would. And then obviously a big outgoing from them is Cucurella to Madrid. That was a
Yeah,
weird signing for me. I didn't see that
that
one
was.
coming.
I did not see that one coming either. Surprised that he made that move to Madrid specifically
Yeah,
because he grew up in the Basque system, didn't he?
yeah, he did.
Yeah, wild. All right.
I believe so. I can't quite recall, but that does ring a bell.
Yeah.
Let's move to Manchester City. So they've obviously got one big signing. The guy that I was glazing all year, and Elliot Anderson, has moved to Man City.
Mhm. Yeah.
That's a big signing, huge money, but I think he's already so good and influenced his football matches at such a high level to where I see in a few years. I don't think we're ever going to say 117 or whatever million is a bargain, but I don't think it's going to look as bad as it looks on paper now in a couple of years.
Yeah. I mean, I see him going in as a potential replacement for Rodri, and they kind of need like someone who's stable and good in there in that position. And like I'm not as surprised as 117 for Anderson as I am for 118 or whatever it was, or whatever those figures are, the 1 million more for Rogers.
Yeah.
Like it makes sense for Anderson because of how important he is to his side, and also what how adaptable he could be at his age to
Yeah.
any other side, especially a side like City.
I think he's so versatile to where he can do what some of Rodri does, and I think he can do a lot of what Bernardo Silva did as well. Just a really intelligent signing. I
Yeah,
mean, it's pretty low hanging fruit. Like you watch him tear up the Premier League last year, you're like, I want that guy. But
yeah,
don't blame them.
yeah,
Phenomenal, and I know he's going to do well. And then they've signed someone else. I know you were after him actually. It was from Leicester. I
yeah,
heard on the Anfield Rap, one of the Leicester fans, like regular Leicester callers that they get, absolutely glazing Monga, like
yeah.
saying how good this guy is going to be in a few years. And City managed to get that done.
Yeah, he was like one of the first ones that we were actually looking at the beginning of the transfer, and I was like, oh, okay, this kid looks pretty good. I hope we get him, but obviously that he has a different plan. So
Yeah,
interested to see how he's gonna adapt there and what he's gonna how he's gonna be utilized.
yeah. I think it. He's a winger, as far as I'm aware, so I think that could potentially free up like a younger spot somewhere else. He probably
Yeah,
replaces Oscar Bob, to be
yeah,
honest.
yeah,
There's also talks of Savinho leaving, so they're going to need a bit more depth there, so it makes sense. In the
hmm
last few weeks as well, they've been linked to Bouadi,
yeah,
the kid from Morocco that I think looked very good in the World Cup.
yeah,
I could see that, you know. I think Rodri is linked with a move away,
hmm
and I think like a fresh start of like Bouadi, Nico Gonzalez is still there, and Elliot Anderson is like a nice kind of quick midfield rebuild.
yeah,
So they've had some pretty big outgoings though. Like I said, Bernardo left, John Stones left, Nathan Ake
hmm
left,
hmm
Akanji left. So some winners have left the
yeah.
club. They've
I mean,
had to
there's
try and replace
rumors.
them.
Yeah, there's also rumors about Rodri leaving as
Yeah.
well. So like, if that does happen, I think that's too much to leave in one season. I
The
think they need
difficulty
someone.
is, it's like those three defenders that I mentioned like Stones, Ake, and Akanji. They've
Yeah.
not been fit properly for 2 years. So
Oh yeah,
like
yeah,
they've been in and out. So I could see them going. Losing Bernardo and Rodri though is a would be two kind of
yeah,
big misses, especially in the engine room. So I'm curious to
yeah,
see how that ends up playing out. But I think City have done well. I expect them to sign big in one or two more spots, though.
yeah. And also, I think like what they could also be doing is waiting and seeing if there's any availability
Yeah,
going into January as well. Like they're going to let people fight it out, and then they're going to get fresher players or at least a bit more experienced players in January if they really need to.
yeah, you're right. Let's move on. Let's talk about Manchester United. So I don't think United have really had the summer that they imagined, at least
No.
based on some of the United fans that I know. They had a deal agreed for Edison that fell apart and ended up not going. But
hmm
off the back of a decent World Cup for Tillemans, he's managed to secure a move to Man United. What do you think of that one?
I was surprised when I saw that move. I was like, wow, Tillemans going to United? Like, that did not make a lot of sense for me. I felt like Tilleman was someone that like used well and used often. So him making that move was pretty surprising for me overall.
Yeah, like I I mean, he's one of the mainstays in that Villa side. I could see why he choose to go to United, and I think they pick him up at a decent price. But
Yeah.
I'm not. I find the idea of a midfield pivot of him and Mainu pretty funny, man. Like there's almost there's almost no mobility there.
Yeah, yeah. I
And
mean,
then they,
especially for the kind of football that Carrick likes to play, like the relational football, like you kind of
yeah,
want someone who's a bit more agile and a little faster in that midfield.
yeah. So I'm curious to see how that ends up panning out. I mean, they were after Mateus Fernandez for a lot of the summer, but Spurs just put the money down.
Yeah.
Andre Santos as well. They managed to sign from Chelsea. It's actually quite a big move in the end, wasn't it? Was it
Yeah.
53 million?
Yeah, something like that. And I think
How the
Chelsea was
heck are
talking
they
about,
securing that money
I don't know,
for
like
Santos, mate?
they were like Chelsea fans I saw were making fun of United fans for like that they fleeced him, and then like Andre Santos like goes and has like a banger of a game, and they're
Yeah,
like, shoot, what do we do? Uh,
I've
yeah,
always thought he was a decent footballer, man. Like very well rounded, combative,
yeah,
but like good in tight spaces, able to get out of high pressing situations. I think he looks solid, but I don't think he's not like that. I don't think either of those are needle movers. You know, like I think
no,
some Spurs signings are needle movers. Like Tonali is a needle mover for them.
yeah. But I mean,
Senesi,
then
Van Hecker,
I'd
you
also
know.
argue that they kind of had some signings last year that were supposed to be needle movers, and they didn't really move the needle because they
True.
weren't being utilized well. But I think Carrick has kind of figured that out, and maybe that's what it is right now. It's like, hey, we have some of this talent that we haven't utilized properly.
Yeah.
Let's go get some more backbone in.
Yeah, and I'm curious to see how they end up kind of unfolding.
Yeah,
They're probably not done, so you're probably going to get some more
yeah,
United signings. I think this could look quite different, and we will do this at the end of the window as well. Only like big major news breaks, and we have a show around that time. We'll talk about it too. But let's move on to like one of the last clubs. Let's talk about Villa. Villa have done some interesting business, and I think some good business. The that man Zambi guy who was really good for Switzerland has
hmm
managed to secure a pretty big move
yeah,
to Aston Villa. I know Newcastle were interested in him, and we could spend ages talking about Newcastle's current situation as well, quite frankly. But Manzambi was an interesting move. I thought he looked dynamic, really good ball carrier, and scored a few important goals in the World Cup. What's your take on that one?
yeah. I felt like that was another one of this that just kind of like materialized out of nowhere. I
Yeah,
think like everyone was like, "Oh, who is this kid? Let's take a look at him." But then I think Villa already kind of placed him and had a deal going. So good move getting him in early. I think it'll be interesting. I don't see Villa as like a young team
no,
generally, and so it's gonna be. I think like them building up in this way is gonna kind of try to strengthen going into this Premier League and Champions League season that they have coming up.
for sure, yeah, and they didn't stop there. Garnacho for me seems like a squad cost ratio PSR type of bullshit. Like
Yeah.
Chelsea were like, okay, we can pay this much for Rodgers, but please take Garnacho off of our hands. Like we can't have him on the books at the same time. That's what it screams of for me. I think Garnacho is categorically a bad football player, so we can move on here. I'm serious, man. We're not talking about Garnacho.
I don't need to talk about Garnacho, man. We can move on to a former Wolves player.
Yeah, Joao Gomez. I think, dude, Liverpool should have been interested in Joao Gomez. He was like
Yeah.
that type of profile I think Liverpool need. Good at
Yeah.
everything, not like a worldie at anything, but it's good at getting the ball back. It's good in tight spaces, can keep it kicking in midfield. I think Liverpool should have been interested in him, but
Yeah.
Villa end up securing him for decent money too. What do you think of that move?
Yeah, I felt like I do agree that Liverpool missed out on that opportunity. I think a lot of people missed out on that opportunity after the kind of season that Zhao had last season.
Yeah,
Like he is one of those utility players that can kind of play in a lot of different
yeah,
positions and does well in a lot of different positions. I would say that's largely because he has football IQ, and
definitely.
a lot of times, like I felt like he was being wasted in a side like Wolves. And once again, not to like be mean about Wolves, it's just like a different kind of.
Lots of shade to Wolves this episode, man.
I know I feel really bad, but but like I feel like it's just yeah, I'm surprised no other team saw that early on. A couple of really like I don't know good moves by Villa. Typically, I wasn't even going to add Villa to our transfer updates because I was like, they're not really big six. But then I was like, yeah, but Villa's they've made some moves
Yeah,
overall.
Let's cover some other interesting transfers in the Premier League then, and we're going to sign out.
Yeah.
Newcastle signed Bazumana Traore, signed
Yeah.
from TSG Offenheim. He's a he was actually a guy that Liverpool were linked to as well. I think he's primarily a left winger.
Mm.
He is quick, super direct. I think he can play some through the middle as well. It's a bit of a replacement for Gordon potentially.
Yeah.
What do you think of that, if anything?
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty interested to see how he's actually gonna do in this league overall.
Yeah,
I don't know, like kind of, generally younger kid coming in and coming from like the German league. I'm interested to see how he does. I think he was kind of fun to watch in Cote d'Ivoire and playing for Cote d'Ivoire.
yeah, he
Yeah,
was.
I think like honestly, like he Newcastle needs more players like that.
They do.
People who are young and hungry who want to stay and want to like build a team. That's what they did 3-4 years ago, and they've done really well. They need to rebuild that in their squad.
I agree with that, and we'll see how he does. New manager there too, so
Yeah.
it's going to be interesting to see how his career shapes up in Newcastle. Another one, which again is I'm kind of annoyed that Liverpool weren't interested in, is Luka Vuskovic.
Hmm.
I've glazed Vuskovic on this platform
Yeah.
before. I think this guy is going to be one of the best centre backs in the world if he can kind of commit to his potential. He was one of the best centre backs in the Bundesliga for Hamburg last year. Like looked very good.
Hmm.
What a signing! 42 million. I'll be honest. If I was Spurs, I'd have tried to keep Vuskovic over signing Van Hecker because I think Vuskovic will be better. But I
Oh
could
yeah.
see he wants first team football. I understand why he wants to leave, but I think that's a really good signing for Brighton.
Yeah, I think he's gonna be. I think he's the most expensive signing ever for Brighton,
Yeah,
technically, right? Yeah,
I
I'm
think.
interested to see how he does. I feel like he is like the right kind of player that Brighton needs
Yeah,
right now. Once again, like these teams have kind of aged out in their defenses, and so they need to start rebuilding, and it's gonna be interesting to see how he does.
if he continues to progress how he has, he'll leave for 80 million in 2 years, one hundred
Yeah,
percent.
yeah.
So it's a very Brighton type of signing. Next one is actually for at the bottom of the table, Ipswich. I've been
Mm,
following Abdul Fatahou's career
yeah.
since he was younger. He's tore it up in the championship a few times.
Mm,
Was kind of the Jeremy Monga before Jeremy Monga. I think this is a really good signing for them. It was kind of cheap too. I think it was like around 18 million. I
yeah.
think he's going to do really well in the Premier League. He's very dynamic, super aggressive, very direct, but like
Hmm.
a good like 1v1 dribbler. I think this is a good signing for Ipswich. I put it down because I'm quite familiar with him and I think it's
Yeah.
a good move for him for the Premier League.
Yeah, I remember seeing his name. I'm not that familiar with him, but I think like whenever a newly promoted team can get someone from like leagues below and bring them up and keep them up, I think they're always like hungry players. Excited to see
Yeah.
what that does for
Another big one was Fulham, Gonzalo Garcia from
them.
Madrid,
Yeah.
kind of young
Mhm.
Spanish striker. I think that's a pretty big statement of intent from Fulham. And it goes to show, man, like how many of these Premier League teams have money to burn at this stage.
Yeah, exactly. I was also really surprised because I mean, for Fulham, they got rid of Raul. He went back to
Yeah,
Wolves, so I was really interested. I was like, wait, when did that happen? I felt like the World Cup is like all these deals are happening during the World Cup, and I have no idea who's coming in and out. But I think once again, like bringing in that young talent, Muniz didn't really have a great season last year through
no.
injury. I think like they need to make sure that they have a good strike partnerships or a really good striker who can be a really good finisher up
Yeah,
there.
he's young and can develop in that position too. I think they have a good structure there to allow
Yeah,
attacking players to perform well. So I'm sure he'll
yeah,
do pretty well there. Moving on, Brentford managed to get Mamadou Sangare. This is a big
yeah.
signing, man.
Huge signing.
I He was linked to a bunch of big clubs, linked to Chelsea, linked to United, linked to Liverpool. Big signing, managing to secure him. He's like a bit of a, I'd say he's like a bit of a destroyer profile, but he's a super well-rounded midfielder, man. Like
Yeah.
good with the ball at his feet, lots of different type of passing variations, really aggressive.
Hmm.
I think he's going to be really good.
Yeah, I feel like he's like a less of a brute Caicedo, right? Like
Yeah,
really, really good on the ball. I don't think he has the physicality of Caicedo necessarily
he's
or
bigger.
aggression. Yeah. Wait, he's bigger than Caicedo?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh wow, I
He's
had no idea.
5'10". Caicedo's like
Okay,
5'11", I think. No, 5'7", 5'8". It's pretty small.
really? Oh
Yeah.
jeez,
But like
he doesn't
Caicedo
have the
plays
yeah.
like a 10-foot player. Like
Yeah,
he's
yeah,
super
yeah, yeah.
physical and
Caicedo is
aggressive.
like like super physical and aggressive. I feel like he's more silky, and I think that's gonna be. Yeah, I was surprised he was going to Brentford. I'd imagine someone else was gonna pick him up.
One of those guys who is at an age where I think in 2 years at 26 he'll end up getting a move for like 60 to 70 million. But
Yeah,
really good signing for Brentford. I think he's going to do really well. And then
yeah.
last but not least, Antonio Silva, really good value signing for
Hmm.
Bournemouth. This was one of the ones where I think Liverpool should have been involved here. He had a kind of like wonder kid status a couple of years ago, like was looked at as one of the best centre back prospects in Europe. Hasn't
Yeah,
done as well in the last 2 years, but I think for 25 million in this market, for a player that had the ceiling he has, if you can just recapture some of that, I think that would have been a great signing for anyone in the top six.
yeah, yeah. I feel like I mean Bournemouth, they're doing the thing that they do where they find like the value talent somewhere,
Yeah.
whether that's like a value talent who is a little older or someone who's younger. They're going to utilize them pretty well, I think.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what he does in the Premier League. But no, like overall, like vibes on the transfer window before we sign out. I think it's been quiet, and I think a lot of that is because of the World Cup.
Yeah.
So I expect these next like three plus weeks to be chaos, man.
Yeah, I fully expect that too. I think a huge part of it is like when you're coming out of the World Cup, you kind of need people to like have a break.
Yeah,
And they also just don't want to they don't want to think about things. So I think it's respectful in that way, but it is going to be a chaotic August.
yeah,
I mean, we have what, 26 more days in this transfer window. It's going to be
yeah.
crazy.
I mean, Liverpool kick off in a couple of weeks, man. Just a bit
Yeah.
longer. So football's coming back around. More transfers coming back. My favorite time of year, kind of like this July, like August, July, September, October, especially for the sporting calendar anyway. But I'm looking forward to bringing it all to all of you guys. If you've enjoyed the podcast today, do all the normal stuff. Subscribe to us on YouTube, like us on Spotify. You can rate us on Spotify too. That's actually very helpful. Always open for feedback on how we can improve the podcast as well. Definitely part of that. But yeah, anything to add before we sign off today, Ben?
No, I'm very excited for what we have coming up and excited to get back into the chair, so to say.
Brilliant. I also look forward to getting back into this chair. But apart from that, guys, peace out.
Cheers, y'all.
Cheers.